people things we can't guarantee anything, nor do we intend to.
Just to back up for the record, the negotiations that established the rate in the current agreement between the GRWA and the city, part of that, or intrinsic to that discussion, was the GRWA's anticipation at that point in time that the Ironwood would have its own source.
Right.
And there was no interest, I don't recall, in anyone establishing a long-term contract.
No.
So part of the city's response was, well, you're asking us to bet on the come for
Right.
next year.
Or two, or three.
And that was, I think, fundamental to part of the reason the council at that time made the decision that they did.
Good. That's a good
But
point.
there always was a goal to get Ironwood Township their own source or another source.
Right, oh, and that was made explicitly clear.
At that time, you're right. Absolutely. That did measure into the decision at that time. You're correct.
All right, do we have any other questions on council?
Yeah. You guys mentioned this refinancing several times, phase 1, phase 2, whatever. Have you calculated the actual dollar amount that does it would?
We haven't yet because we don't have well, this just came up over the weekend, really, that bond council is now going to have a bond for each refinance.
I know you said that.
So it's going to be the same percent, that total, what were we told? The same percent as you're now paying on what is owed, but at a lesser interest rate, and now spreading that 10-year loan out, that's 10 years old now, on another 40 years, which is giving you a lesser payment. Numbers we don't even have yet.
When does bond council anticipate giving it?
Well, I wanted them a month ago, but
It's hard for the city to make a decision if I don't know what the dollar amount is. There's a refinance. How much
I'll get the...
compared to what we take?
We can lay the current payments next to the amortization schedule that we have. I know the amounts that are owed on each bond, and I can provide that. And take the construction part out, and the rest of it's your percent. But in phase 2, we're financing, or in project, or this water source, when we're financing phase 2, Comet Jackson.
Phase 1.
Phase 1, Comet Jackson, Anvil, and storage tank.
Yeah.
We're doing 4 refinancing, yet we've got 1 amortization schedule, 1 annual debt requirement.
Which would just be a basic idea about that.
Phase 2 is in project complete.
The basic idea.
Project 1 is in.
We know the first one isn't going to be a huge, but it's going to be some savings to everybody. It's that second one, that source project, that's going to be the big savings.
And Gene is reacting also that RD was they didn't want us going out and throwing numbers around. We were kind of warned against that. So that's one of the reasons she's not getting.
I was told by RD I cannot give even to GRWA until we have
That's
this
all.
bond.
Project. That's the first project.
If you say they're too committed to like this one, I don't understand. Somebody's approved the whole thing as it is already without telling you.
We have the financing package, the total amount, but we don't have the individual bonds. At first we were hoping it's going to be one financing package so that now I would only have 2 bonds to worry about instead of 7, 8. But now they're saying, no, that's not the way it's going to go.
And that's why your question was so hard to answer, Tom, is because it's morphing into a whole bunch of...
No, I understand. It's a complicated process.
And when did you expect to get that information, Gene? No idea yet.
I just got the email today stating that it's going to be in bond series, whatever, A, B, C, D, E, and F.
But when you do get it, then you do plan on putting together a side-by-side. Any of the council questions? All right, the audience.
One comment I do need to make, though, on this source water project, if there's no project, there's also no financing.
Refinance.
Because the project, in order to qualify for the refinancing, you have to do a project that's $1 more than your refinancing. So if that doesn't happen, then the refinancing is gone too.
Well,
I
that's
think
part of
the refinance is about 5.1 million or something like that.
Or something, yeah.
that's part of the reason why I'm interested in it, because, what we could say, if the project were to go through, we're going to say something on refinance.
Right.
How much is that
Right.
compared to the sale of water? But
I'm Butch Sinai, for you that don't know me. I was on the Water Authority and also the chief of the fire department from the onset of the well fields north of town and the water line going down Prospect Road, and then the proposed water line down the highway and the railroad grade. I've got, if I may use this term, an invested interest in the Skogibik Range Water Authority. I gave the Water Authority a 30-foot easement on my property free because I thought the Water Authority was the way to go here. But I do have some questions. And the first one is for you, Tom. There's going to be a loss of revenue to the city. The water west of town is going to be furnished from Wakefield. Currently, how much revenue do we get?
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we estimate, based on current projections, approximately $83,000 to $85,000 annually.
that includes Pioneer Township.
Pioneer Township investment company.
But we've got budgeted, what, $8,000 for Bedford Township? That's a line item.
That's a different,
My next all of my other questions are to you, Randy, because you and I did a lot of talking over the years. Some of the comments you made here tonight, other comments you had made when we were having coffee years ago. The Bessemer Township, City of Bessemer line is at Division Lane. Now, you mentioned tonight about picking up this new water line at Cedar Street. There's another quarter of a mile in there of city-owned property. Okay, I just wanted to make you aware of it. The other thing, it wasn't mentioned tonight except by Linda, but at some Water Authority meetings and often projected growth in this area. We've done nothing but slip. Very concerned. The other term you used tonight, street improvement. You better take a good look at the streets that the Skogibik Range Water Authority went through in this town already. Take a look at it in this spring. The other term you used, life of the wells out north here. That term was never used when those wells were being developed. It sounded like they were going to last forever.
Well,
Now there's a lifespan.
I didn't use the term life of wells. The question came to me, what's the life of the wells? I think Chuck was the one that answered it, that says almost indefinite. You didn't hear me correct.
But that term was used, life of the wells. Also, when I was on the Water Authority, there was this thing called wellhead protection. It was a big deal with the well fields on here. What happened to the wellhead protection with the Chicago mine? That's more that is.
There's a plan in place around those wells, Bush.
In Bessemer. The Bessemer well field has a
Wellhead protection, yes, that
plan
was
in
a big
place.
deal.
Yes, it was implemented
What
in the
has
city.
happened to the wellhead protection with Chicago
Why do
mine?
you do that with Chicago Mine?
Chicago Mine does not have a wellhead protection plan in place.
Is it required to have one?
No,
Why?
because it's not required.
Aren't they leaning that way?
They tried to, it was studied and couldn't be determined exactly where the source is. To protect a wellhead, you need to determine where the water's coming from and then back off a radius around it, preferably 10 years, and protect that source. In Chicago Mine, the exact point of origin of the water can't be determined.
That's not a point of concern.
And you can't legislate something, you can't determine exactly where it's coming from.
The other thing, Randy, you and I had talked about, this was during the time when I offered my property, I asked, why is there two water lines coming from the Ramsey Crossing into Bessemer? And you said that one on the railroad grade was for future growth in the city. Now part of that line is going to be used for something else, and I question that. And the other thing is, you and I had talked about the water line running to Tech Street.
Yes, we
And
did.
you agreed. And you agreed.
Still
And you
do.
cut it off at Tamarack. No,
We even can make it a Tamarack. Oh, Tamarack Steiger.
Tamarack and
I'm sorry,
Stuyvesant.
yeah.
Ellenberg.
The fire protection over on that east end of town, south of the highway, prior to coming to Tamarack Street, it was very poor. It improved a little bit by coming as far as Tamarack Street. But if it would have went another block, it would have meant a tremendous thing. If my memory serves me right, you said it was because we ran into rock.
Okay, let's back up. Let's do the first one first. The double lines. Dean and I have been arguing about this too, because I said there's a big component in there that everybody's forgetting about. And that was the state coming to us and saying, you can't have a single line coming down US 2 from Prospect to the city, or you'll have the Ironwood scenario of one main serving the entire thing. Therefore, you shall split into two, one on each side of the highway. One, if one should fail, you could switch over to the other one until you repair the other. That was a major driving factor for splitting on that two, both sides of US 2. We also did say, because we were talking to high school at the time, remember?
Yep.
We also did say it's going to be very advantageous to the city to have that main on the other side, because it will work to serve that piece of highway frontage that is what you're talking about.
But there's only one line coming from the well field to the Ramsey Crossing.
That is correct, but that is where it comes together with Chicago Mine. So you have two sources. See, the wells from Besford here and Chicago Mine come together at that intersection of Ramsey Road. So Chicago Mine, up to that point, acts as backup for the Bessemer system. The Bessemer system acts as backup for Chicago Mine. It was from that point into town, where those two came together, where we had the problem. We had to get from that point to the Bessemer distribution system. In the Bessemer side, we could distribution. We all have these mains tied together. But we had that one piece that was going to be a single feed. If it should break in that spot, okay, your property, that would be it. There would be no source. We can from Ironwood today if we had to, but at that time, no way to serve the city of Bessemer. Was the only way into town. So the solution was, we'll put one on the north side, across your property, Butch, and then one on the south side, which came down the right of way. That took care of that regulatory issue. And then we had the high school thing going. You're right, we talked about this quite a bit. I said, that's going to be pretty advantageous with that high school going right back in there with that main right in front. We talked about that at the public hearings and everything else. But the driving point for splitting that main was actually the concern that the state had that, because we were coming 16-inch main at one time, coming down the north side of the highway, going by the roadway park and that, and the state said, you can't do that, and you created the Ironwood scenario of one single feed in the town. So we split them into two. The other thing is, yeah, you and I talked about that fire pit. Absolutely. Be the first one to say it. And then we ran into cash problems with phase 2. And I had to drop something, so we dropped that piece. And that's why I'm saying, even today, for that one block, if the city... I'm thinking that we're going to improve that scenario, but the plan, if you look at that map, is to come on at Steigers, turn towards the mill, go up to Long Ear, go back on Long Ear, come back down on... Is that Peck?
Mary.
No, to get to Mary. The Long Ear, it's on Peck in there. I don't know if that improves that firefighting capability on that side or not, to be honest with you. We talked about coming by Carpenetto's in there at one time, trying to sneak in there and tying a main together. We could still do that.
I don't think that you want to create a commingling of water there from Wakefield, from the trial line and the well field.
That is exactly why we're talking. Yeah, you're right. You'd have to put that other piece in there. You're right, because there would be commingling if we didn't do that. You're correct. So it won't help at all.
End of my questions. Thank you.
But Your memory's pretty good. What I want to know is, you got a notebook back there with all of our copy sessions in it, or what?
When the water authority does run this line, or if they do run it through the city, no matter where it goes, there will be fire hydrants placed every 600 feet or whatever, as required by law. Those fire hydrants are for use by any mutual aid fire department in this area. It doesn't matter who owns them, as we proved when the fire was held at Powderhorn.
And there's one thing I want to pick up on in
So
that, too.
even though the line runs through, picks up no Bessemer customers, does not commingle any water, you've got fire hydrants there on brand new large mains to be used for fire suppression.
I read a reference, because I'm reading the papers, and I'm, reference about fire water capacity at Powderhorn. There wasn't any that I know of, right? I mean, I talked to all the chiefs, John and Jeff. There was not an issue of water ability whatsoever. I'm reading on the paper and go, where the heck did that mistaken factoid come from? Because that is not true. When I was there, the trucks were backed up at the hydrants, yes, but I was there early, so you guys are just getting rolling at that point. But the water authority, I said, I'm talking at the authority meeting, and I could have gotten one more hydrant probably and delivered water to tankers if they would have done it.
On Geller Drive.
Because we didn't tax the system at all.
Actually, that one hydrant was put down in a hole there. It wasn't for convenience of fire departments.
And on the highway, too, it would have been difficult.
Yeah.
But there is up that, what's that little road, Geller Drive?
Geller Drive.
Geller Drive. There's a hydrant there that could have been used before they come. But you guys seem to be doing fine with it.
Well, you had made a comment to me the other day concerning that we cannot, or the water authority cannot sell the water out of Chicago mine to any customers in Bessemer. Did I understand?
Any what?
That's correct.
That is correct.
I didn't hear what he said.
Because you had told me the other day when we were having coffee that the water authority cannot sell any of Wakefield's water to any residents in the city of Bessemer. Any customers, I should say.
That's right.
The dispute that occurred between the city of Midland and Midland Township made it clear that if we're going to come through town, we got to get in the U.S. highway right away, and we can't serve a customer anywhere in the city unless it's agreed to by both parties.
All done, Butch?
I'm done.
All right.
I took
Are there any other questions, comments?
I have one more.
Absolutely.
If you are worried, and I don't know if this is relevant or not, if you're worried about the longevity of the Bessemer mines,
Wells? I'm not.
Okay.
Let's make that clear.
Well, I mean, that was a comment that was said. That was a comment that was said that you were worried about the longevity of the Bessemer wells.
I said
The state was worried about the capacity.
Okay.
That's not the longevity.
It's not the same thing.
The only question I have is, why are we not worried about the Chicago mines when we don't even know where the water's coming from? I mean, that could be dry tomorrow.
Well, no, the Chicago mine was pump tested back in 1985 for 30-some days, and proven to have the capacity for approximately 435 gallons per minute. We tested again for a 3-day period at 1,000 gallons per minute, and we, based on that test forecast, we could maintain that rate for a minimum of a week in an emergency across the range. And I didn't see the report today as to what the final number
They
was.
figured that easily 500 ppm, no problem.
Okay, on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
But it was-
I guess my
So it's gotten
question-
slightly better
Yeah,
since
my question is just,
1985.
how can you be
How can you
so focused on...
guarantee that the Ironwood wells won't have a
Yeah,
contamination
but we
problem?
don't even know where the water's coming from. I mean, it could be coming from Andy's house. We don't know where it's coming from. So you're basing this whole big...
I do have a wet basement.
And we haven't talked about
But
that.
you're basing this whole big projected $1.6 to $1.8 million, and you're going to say $3 million because you know that it's not going to be 1.6 to 8. I don't care how you look at it. It's going to be a $3 million minimum project on a water source that nobody knows where it's coming from. How can you try and sell something like this when you can't tell people where the water's coming from? I don't understand that.
I don't think that you can go to the people of the city of Wakefield and make the claim to them that says that their water system isn't dependable for the long term, when it's been
That's-
pumping away for a long time.
That's not what I'm saying. I never said that. I don't even quote me on the paper. Because I didn't say that.
Just wanted to make sure that what you clarified, you know?
What I'm just saying is, you can't tell us where the water's coming
No,
from.
we can't.
How can you sell us on a $3 million project when you can't tell us where the water's
I'm not
coming from?
selling.
We're not selling you.
But you know what
We're
I'm
asking
saying.
you to choose which route
We're
you
just
prefer.
asking you to choose which route you want us to go through, Tom.
That's
Bottom
really-
line, that's the question in front of you today, and that's it.
We're not asking
You
you
say
about
no,
water.
we go down the highway and say thank you for
Okay,
your
how
time.
can you sell this to Ironwood Township and Bedford Township when you can't tell them where the water's coming from?
They've been buying the water for how many years? 40 years now.
They're buying it, yeah, but right now they're purchasing water from the Water Authority
They could be
through
buying,
Bessemer.
Ironwood Township could be continuing to
buying
buy from the
also
city of
water from the
Ironwood,
city.
and a contamination problem could pop up, and, who knows? I mean, you're asking stuff.
I'm just asking questions.
There are no guarantees.
You know,
Either
I-
Bessemer's
we
Wellfield
can't do it at
or
rates we can't
Wakefield
do here.
or Ironwood.
My kids have always had a problem with me because they always say I ask too many questions because I just want to know why. I think you're wasting a whole lot of money on something that could be spent on something better. I don't think that this whole big project is a necessity. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel about it, and I think I'm going to again this time. So.
What I'm trying to do too is I personally hate the waste of money going down the highway when I could be spending some of that money and doing some improvement in Bessemer streets, following your exact logic. I'd rather do that than waste the money giving DOT a new concrete base that they will use in 2016 for the rest of their project.
Go ahead, Andy.
When you talk about going down US 2,
Trying to get rid of that
talk
cement
about
for
actually
years.
tearing up US 2 and putting a main underground?
What we envision doing is, in essence, picture it as kind of going down the southern curb line. But as soon as I get out there, I got to cut back into that. I got to cut into that concrete somewhere. And as soon as I cut into that concrete, they're going to push me to center line and, speculating. So and they told me. So there's a lot of concrete base that will have to be replaced if we go down that road. Even if I try to get up on the side. I'm trying to get up on the side. I'm trying to do more curb and sidewalk replacement on that side than I am base underneath. But I hate to waste the money, not on the curb and sidewalk, but in that concrete base.
So DOT is giving you the right to do it with follow certain restrictions or certain things.
It will be subject to their permit.
See, they're coming along in 2016 and redo that highway project, so they say now we'll see 2016, but my gut will be that they'll take the concrete out anyway, so they'll probably tell us, remove all that concrete and put back in a compacted material that will last until we can get the other half out when the highway's done.
So the Mayan calendar will take care of everything.
All right, anything else? Okay.
Jake, you'll make those materials available to us on that. With my question earlier?
Yes.
Thank you.